know what? When you're talking about sci-fi, you have to mention that there's so many items that have such high value. We're going to explore some of that this morning with, we were all really excited when you knew that you were going to be on the show with us today. So this is Matthew Quinn. You know him from Antiques Roadshow, but you've set up shop right here. You've got 3 levels, an incredible gallery.
We have. We've been in Falls Church for almost 25 years now.
Nice.
It's been crazy. Yeah.
And we're going to go through these levels, but first this morning, you wanted to talk about, you brought some books out. What might be one of the most impressive things on the table that you don't see that often, we see some comics here. What do we need to know about these?
These are the original drawings, for the books. And so if you look at, you can see the red stamp at the top, talks about what book they were used in. You see their artist signature. If you look on each one of these, about here and here, we see that it was signed by Sal Buscema, really one of the famous artists that was doing this work. Fantastic pieces. These are all going up Thursday night at auction. They're in at 500 to 700, 600 to 800, something around there. Middle hundreds, they could do a lot more. You never know. The collecting culture today is, it's driven by nostalgia, and we're just coming into the time where people are buying the stuff because they remember it.
Right, they have some sort of relationship with it. And one thing, I have to mention, or every girl watching would be upset with me, The Princess Bride. Yes, I love the movie. Of course, it was a book.
And that's a first edition. That's lot 107 on Thursday night. It's in I believe it's in the middle hundreds when that comes up. Certainly going to be a bargain for whoever goes there. The fascinating piece. There's some underground comics here. This is Robert Crumb.
Okay.
Signed by Robert Crumb, one of the most famous underground comic authors, drawers. Fascinating pieces, generally known to be a little bit more risque than this.
Okay.
But fun piece. Middle hundreds, not necessarily as maybe mainstream as Dune or Space Odyssey. We have up and back. We have the Geiger's biomechanics. He was famous for Alien.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did the Alien drawing. So a lot of people remember there. That book, we're going to leave that closed because the inside's not as family friendly.
We can't show you that on TV. But guys, there's a lot more that we can show you here. So stick with us. We're at Quinn's Auction Galleries all morning long with Matthew Quinn. Don't go away. Yes, that's right. So we are at Quinn's Auction Galleries. Okay, these chairs are all empty right now. They're not going to be that way tonight because there is a big auction that's taking place, and it's all geared towards sci-fi. There's a lot of money in sci-fi. So this is David Quinn, the auctioneer tonight. So people don't necessarily have to be in the audience to place a bid.
No, we will certainly have over 100 people sitting here in the room, but people can also be at home. They can be in their pajamas, they can be in their costume, and if they're adventurous, they can come in costume to the auction tonight.
Take a picture of that and post it on Instagram, will you?
I will.
All right, we're going to watch for that. All right, let's go over here. We're going to talk to Matthew Quinn. You know him from Antiques Roadshow. So what's going to go up tonight? We see some books here, some really familiar names.
Well, you thought you were done with Game of Thrones, but
I did.
Here we actually the 4 original books here. So when it comes down to not tons of value today, but they still are worth $400 to $600, and that's the first time this came out. Fantastic set of books. I'm sure some collectors are going to love that and chase those. You come over here, it gets a little bit more valuable. We have the trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
Are they worth more just because it's a trilogy, or they sell like individually?
We could spend hours talking about books and what makes them valuable. There are different runs of each one depending on when they came out. All 3 of these are first edition, first state, printed in London. You put them together because of all those factors of the first. We're talking $10,000 to $15,000 for these tonight.
Holy smokes! Okay.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff too, and I want the people at home to think about this. I mean, some of it is found in attics. I mean, it's.
You'd be surprised where things turn up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a Hobbit, and that's a first. If it's a first edition, third state, only $300 to $500. If it was the equivalent of state of theirs, it'd be much more money. These turn up in homes. You find books in attics. You find things that pop. Nobody realizes they have them, and sometimes they can be worth a lot of money.
When you talk about what is worth a lot of money, you see so many different items, runs the gamut as far as variety. What percentage of those are actually worth something?
I would venture to say 5%.
5%?
I mean, it depends, right?
Okay.
There's 80% of objects can be sold and have some sort of value.
Right.
When you start getting into money that people are excited about, want to talk about that $10,000 to $15,000 level, it's probably less than 5%, maybe less than 3%. Times are changing. Nostalgia is what's driving that buying. So we love all the sci-fi these days, and we love the Game of Thrones. We love Lord of the Rings, and that's what's going to drive that buying. Some of Grandma's China is not as much as it used to be.
It's not. That's right. You know, well, we were talking about that. When you go up and you see these books, or you see some of the comics upstairs, that's stuff that a lot of us, you know, we grew up with, and we feel a connection to that. So when is this auction taking place? It's tonight.
This auction is tonight,
Okay.
so we'll start at 6 p.m. There's, I think, 500 lots or something around that, and we run pretty fast, probably 100 lots an hour. There'll be people in the room, people on the phone, people online, pajamas, costumes, you name it.
That's right. You know, and then one other thing, I mean, you're from D.C. Do you think growing up in an area where there's so much history and so much culture, did that help feed your interest in antiques? Or did you just like get stuck with this job and this is what it is?
I don't know that I had an interest. I think as a kid, my brother and I, we were running around getting drugged antique store to antique store by antique collecting parents.
Right.
You know, we ended up here, and we have a lot of fun helping people through the downsizing challenge and shifting, and then it's even more fun when we get to see stuff like this. So,
Yeah, you know.
the eclecticness of DC certainly helps.
That's right. All
but-
right. Well, guys, stick around. We're back with more right after this. You know what? That's right. In the last segment, we talked a lot about those books. Some of them will go for thousands.
10 to
of
15,000 for one pair down there.
Now, what I have to think, since I have you front and center here, is we got to talk about there are things that are made to be collectibles. So where do you guys stand on that?
Well, I'm not sure there's much a better example than a pile of Disneyana, as some people might call it in this case. 5 different carousels here. One of them actually animated. You push a button and it moves.
I'm going to guess it's this one right here with the little dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It's got a lot going on there. So a lot of what was going on post-war, well into the 80s and 90s, was things were being made to be collectible. Okay. And so when you look at,
we've got
Maleficent here. There's a run of 7,500 pieces. So this is one of 7,500. It's hard to imagine that that's limited. You look over here. We can tuck this away. That is number 99 of 10,000. They made 10,000 of those animated cells. So much of this was being sold through Disney stores in the shopping malls in the 80s and 90s, right? We were all there going through. And so when you see those objects that are made to be collectible, they don't end up having a lot of value.
Okay. Now, things that are like valuable, we've got some paintings over there. What makes those valuable and interesting?
Well, these are interesting for a variety of reasons. They're a bit of a balance between two worlds. So Javier Cabada, the artist in this particular case, was a traditional artist. He was a listed artist. You know, we go through our world and we're looking at some of the oil paintings and things that we see around the room. You know, you see an artist, you look them up, you see what they've done, how they've worked, and we know what they're worth. Well, he's a guy that doesn't do this, but he was wrapped up in the craze. The client he was working for, who actually was our client, watched him paint these, was a big fan. So she asked a traditional artist to do some work after.
And that's an indication, though, I think, that sci-fi just like permeates everything.
I think that's absolutely part of the thing. I mean, it's that nostalgia factor that brings this together. You know, these are copies of John Buscema. We saw Sal Buscema early in the first segment.
Right.
These are copies of him. Only a few $100s here,
but they're really cool.
Indicative of the craze and what's going on.
Exactly. Okay, awesome night tonight. We've got about 10 seconds left, but auction, big auction.
Quinn's auction tonight, 6 o'clock. You can go to quinnsauction.com, figure out how to bid. We've got Fine Art on Saturday. It's going to be a great weekend at auction. Come see us.
Awesome. I'll tell you what, guys, it is amazing here. Matthew Quinn, pleasure is all ours. We're gonna, we know where to find you now. So we're going to be swinging by here. That's right. Marquette, I'll tell you what, this is the place to find that one-of-a-kind item.